Hi guys, and welcome back to the OQLIS YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create a gauge chart. One of the most common places to find a gauge chart is in cars, where they're used to measure speed, engine RPM and engine temperature. But today I'm going to be showing you how to create some interesting gauge charts for business dashboards. Gauge charts, also known as dial or speedometer charts, use needles to show information or results. On a gauge chart, the value for the needle is read against the colored data range or chart axis. This chart type is often used in executive dashboard reports to show key business indicators. Now that we have unpacked what a gauge chart is, let's go through a few examples to help you get a better understanding of how and when to use a gauge chart. HR and management teams, this one's for you. In our first example, we will look for performance ratings across various people to discover how each employee has been measured according to their KPI targets. As you can see below, there are multiple gauge charts, and insights tell us that Tom is currently our top performing employee, having achieved 60% of his KPI targets thus far. We can also easily see at a glance that both Nick and Julie are underperformers, achieving only 44% of their targets. For our second example, we are diving into fleet logistics and efficiency. Imagine you are a logistics company and you have connected IoT devices to all of your trucks so that you can monitor their overall efficiency. Considering that you don't want your trucks going too slow, as customers expect speedy delivery and slow driving is very fuel inefficient. On the other hand, you don't want your trucks speeding, as it is illegal and dangerous. From the chart below, we can see that we have placed a green section which represents the optimal speed that our trucks should be averaging. Using this chart, you can easily see which vehicles are running optimally and which vehicles are lagging behind the pack. Lastly, if you head up a marketing division, this example may entice you. Our third example uses customer reviews to display sentiment towards the product. In this case, neutral reviews are not too important as they show indifference. This is why it is the smallest section of the chart. The green and the red sections are bigger, as you would like to know when your product is doing well so that you can maintain that level of customer satisfaction, or when your product is doing badly so that you can rapidly respond to the market and remain competitive. Imagine gauging your overall business sentiment on social media at a glance. All in all, gauge charts are an exciting and visually appealing way to display speed, percentage, average, or any other metrics on your dashboards. So let's try create our very own gauge chart. You can head over to your Explore tab and select the correct data model. I will be using a dataset that contains customer complaints split by the department for an entire company. So let's start by dragging customer complaints over to the measure box, and then we can select average as we want the average number of customer complaints, and then we can select visualization and we can set that to gauge. So as you can see now, we have our very basic gauge chart, but this is just the average customer complaints across the whole company. It's not split by department. So to split it by department, let's drag department to the group box, and now you can see we have 4 clear departments: IT, sales, marketing and accounting. Okay, the next thing to do to make our charts a bit more realistic is adjust the colors, because when dealing with complaints, obviously a lower number of complaints is better. So this should actually be green and this should actually be red. So you can do that by heading over to the settings and then scrolling down to color ranges. So as you can see here, our chart starts at 0, the first color range, which would be red, starts at 0 and ends at 33, and this is the color code. Then the next one starts at 33 and ends at 66, and that will be the orange. And then the last one starts at 66 and ends at 100, and that will be the green. So we can take these color codes here. Let's take this green color code and swap it with the red color code. Like so. And now we can see that lower complaints are actually in the green and higher complaints are in the red. So the next thing you might want to adjust is the range of your gauge. As you can see, ours goes 0 to 100, but none of them really seem to go higher than about 10-ish. So I actually know that in this data set, none of these departments received more than 20 complaints in one day. So let's change the range from 0 to 20 instead of 0 to 100. So to do that, we will go to end value and we'll change this to 20, like so. And now you can see our entire chart is green, but there's nothing wrong with this. This is just because in our start value we've said it must be green from value 0 to 33. So let's adjust this to be more relevant to our use case. For the sake of demonstration, let's assume your company has defined anything less than 3 complaints per day as excellent, anything between 3 and 10 as okay, and anything over 10 as problematic. So we can change this first start and end value to 0, so we'll leave that, and we'll change this to 3, and then we can start the next color at 3 and end it at 10, and then for our last one we will start it at 10 and end it at 20. Okay, so now you can see our gauge chart is coming together quite nicely. You can see that IT is in the green, sales and IT and accounting are in the green, and then sales is in the orange, and marketing has just hit the red. So now this may lead business executives to go and find out why marketing is receiving so many complaints, and maybe even commend the IT department for receiving so few complaints. Okay, so let's go through some other settings that you may want to tinker with. If we start at the top, title is the name of the column containing the group field, so in our case it is department. Then the next 2 options are just alignment options for the title, and the value field is the name of the column that you are measuring. So in this scenario we will use the customer complaint column, and then the next 3 fields are not relevant to the gauge chart specifically. Indicator type is the style of your needle, so we can change that, for example, like so, or rectangle needle like that, but let's just leave it as triangle needle for now. And then show value shows the exact value that the needle is pointing to. So right now it says no, so it's not showing any of the values, but if we set this to yes, then we can see, okay, so sales got 9.44, which is why it's only just in the orange, and marketing is 10.42, which is why it's only just in the red. So let's just turn that off for now. Format is the data type you're dealing with, and you have 3 options for this: number, currency, and percentage. So you don't really have to change these. None will just show the actual number that it's reading from the column, but obviously if you do want the units to show up, then you can select these options, but it might just make your gauge chart look a bit cluttered, especially if you're making your gauge chart very small on the dashboard. Then value font size is the size of the value that would show if you enabled this. So for example, if we change this down to 10, we'll see that our value is now a lot smaller. And then start value is where you want your chart to start at. So in our case it starts at 0 and ends at 20, but I mean we could change this to 10 and 20, and then our chart would be just the red section, but let's leave it as 0 to 20. And then scale interval is the number of see this little line, number of those, or the size of the interval between those. So if we change that to 2, you'll see we'll get a whole bunch more of those lines. And then start and end angle is just the orientation of your gauge chart. So if I change the start angle to 0 and end angle to, I don't know, well, let's actually make it start angle 90, end angle 270. Now you can see our whole chart has been rotated. So let's just set this back to how it was, like so. And basically this just means that it's starting at 180 degrees and it's going back to 0, because degrees are generally measured anti-clockwise. So you would have your 0 here, then 90, then 180, then 270 and 360. Okay, and then needle width, that's pretty self-explanatory. I'll show you now. If we make that a lot bigger, then you can see the needle obviously changes. And then indicator color picker is just going to be the color of your needle. And then yeah, this is just the color that we just selected there. And color ranges we discussed earlier. Range width is what's it, the size of your gauge chart. And then range orientation is whether you want these little lines in the middle, on the inside, or on the outside of your gauge chart, like so. And then lastly, gauges per line. Say we wanted all 4 of these to show in one line, we could arrange it like so. Okay, so that is all for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like and subscribe so you can get all the latest updates regarding the OQLIS application. And remember, at OQLIS, we empower you to make impactful decisions for positive change.